Good morning, folks. Welcome to another episode of The Sense of Things with Jeff and Ron. And welcome to another week, another Groundhog Day week. We are back at war with Iran for the next 5 minutes and then it'll change. So that said, market was down for a couple days. Now the market's up today. So who knows? It's another April situation or who knows what. So we're going to cover that today. Ron's got some great stuff where he's going to cover what happened in history, and he's got some fantastic analysis stuff. I will come in behind him on this show talking a little bit about an analysis of the FOMC minutes and some things that we can glean from the reports out of that. So stay tuned. We'll be right back on in just 1 second. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the show. Ron, how are you, my friend?
Good morning. Last time we did this, it was the first half of the year. Now we're in the second half of the year. We're almost already midway through July.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's been a decent summer though. I think we're gonna be flat here for about another 30 to 45 days, and
Yep.
then I don't know. Obviously, then the midterms pick up and everything else, but it's hard to believe we would be higher by the end of the year. I think where we're at right now is where we people expected us to be, but we shall see. It's been an interesting
Mm.
year so far.
It's been a crazy year so far with the machinations of the market, ups and downs and everything. So we'll see where we're at. I agree with you. I think we're going to be flat at least for the next 60 to 7 or 60 to 90 days, quite frankly. I could see us pulling into the end of the year. It just depends on, I think, oil prices at this point of where we end up the year, really.
Yeah,
All
gotcha.
right.
All right.
Well, what's going on in history?
So I brought together 2 weeks worth since we didn't do
Okay.
anything last week. A couple of interesting things. Basically, the 1785
Huh.
Continental Congress sets the dollar as the official U.S. currency.
Okay.
1804, Aaron Burr slays Alexander Hamilton in duel. Can you imagine if dueling was still legal today?
Oh,
Just
I
saying.
could see it. Bernie Sanders and, you know,
Yeah, right on the
whoever.
floor of the Congress. All right, look, I didn't like what you just said. So, here we go. You take a
Go take it out.
pistol,
Shoot you.
20 back to back, 20 paces and turn. It's just
No, I think my favorite back then was Andy Jackson, who the one guy that tried to shoot him and he took a stick and just beat the living crap out of the guy. That's the way it should be.
there we go. 1884, France gives the Statue of Liberty to the United States. I got to tell you, there's two things, New York, right? If you've never seen documentaries about the Statue of Liberty coming over, how it was built on that island, and also the Brooklyn Bridge. I mean,
Hmm.
you've got to go back. It was about the same time. It was the late 1800s, and think about they didn't have hydraulics and
Hmm.
the. It is amazing how they built both of these structures that are still standing today without the modern day equipment.
Yeah.
PBS has great documentaries. I'm sure people could find stuff on YouTube.
Yeah, if you have Fox, the Fox Nation app too, Stu Varney did some really good. They're a little older now. They're probably about 4 or 5 years old, but he did some things of like how it was built in America or something. And I remember he did one on each of those that was just really super interesting. Brooklyn Bridge, I think, is the most interesting one because it was built relatively fast back in a time when there was no technology at all. And it was just
Well,
literally
if they were to
dudes
build the
and,
Empire State Building today, it would take a decade.
well,
Back
I
then,
mean,
it took 3 years or whatever the
yeah,
hell it
what
was, 4 years.
took almost what 16 years to rebuild the World Trade Center,
There was
but
a lot of
five
politics there
five
too.
years to think about it, and then another 10 to actually build the dang thing.
Yeah. 1905, Einstein publishes his groundbreaking theory of
Nice.
relativity, even though he said the rule of 72 was one of the greatest discoveries.
Yes.
1933, Major League Baseball's first All-Star game is held. 1936, Gone with the Wind is published, and frankly, my dear, I really don't give a damn. I didn't care for the movie. I just thought I'd throw that in there. 26, thank God. The,
Yes.
the French designer designed the bikini is introduced to the world.
Yes.
And
Thank you.
forever, women were getting ticketed for showing their belly button.
That's okay. I'm okay
Nin-
with it.
1953, the first Chevy Corvette rolls off the
Mm.
assembly line and then obviously influences Ford to obviously come up with the Mustang. And they
Uh,
really, the
nope.
American
First, the Thunderbird. So the Thunderbird was the answer
The
to it.
Ford Thunderbird.
Yeah.
I
And
thought the
within,
Mustang was a cooler car than the Thunderbird.
oh, yeah, no, the Thunderbird, the first Thunderbirds were awesome. And then they completely ruined it by the early 60s. So,
They screwed up the Mustang in the late 70s and 80s.
yep.
It just looked like a box car. But I got to tell you, the Chevy Corvette has definitely evolved over the years from the original to the Stingray. But today it looks like the Batmobile. It is really cool looking.
Oh, it's beautiful. Yeah, there's a guy, we have a, what is it, Toll Brothers that's right next to us here in our office complex. And there's a guy that has a brand new Corvette that's painted to look like a navy blue angel plane. It is awesome.
Ah, nice.
I'll take a
Nice.
picture and show you
Yeah,
sometime.
please. Okay, 1957, John Lennon and Paul McCartney meet for the first time in a church auditorium,
Huh,
and the
I did
rest is
not know that.
history. Yeah.
And then Yoko came along.
1962, U.S. patent issues the three-point seatbelt
Huh,
to the Swedish engineer Nils Bohlin, I think his name is pronounced. I
huh.
read the article, it was pretty interesting. Think about it. They didn't really even put in seatbelts standard into the car until the mid to late 50s. And there were so many innovative, but it took forever to do it. And you know what? It's not like these things cost the cars a lot of money. It's just the
Mm.
car manufacturers wanted to basically say it's safe to drive without seatbelts. It's okay.
Yeah. Don't worry if your kids get launched through the front window. It'll be okay.
1965, first American astronaut walks in space,
That's right.
Edward White II.
Yep.
19,
And what service was Ed White part of?
what do you mean, what service? Military service?
Yes.
Most of them were from the Air Force, so I don't know.
Yep. Ed White, U.S. Army, buddy.
All right, there you go. 1967, Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band is released. I got to tell you,
Interesting.
I'm a
Beatles
big
quotes and why?
Beatlemaniac. It was a good album. It wasn't my favorite album, but it was
Nah,
but they said that changed everything from the 50s and 60s, leading us into today's music. I think there's a lot of truth to that, but Abbey Road is definitely my favorite album from them.
totally agree.
Revolver and Rubber Soul too, but Abbey Road is my favorite.
Yep. Yellow Submarine, though, you got to say.
I think that was their worst album. All right, 1974, Dr. Heimlich first publishes his technique for
Interesting.
rescuing choking victims, and I don't think people know that the Heimlich maneuver was actually from a doctor. I kind
Mhm.
of figured that, but obviously I didn't know it until I really read this article.
I knew that it was a doctor, but yeah, I didn't know. I actually thought it was earlier than that, but okay.
Yeah. 1994, Amazon is founded by Jeff Bezos.
One of my, I
94,
actually have a picture of it on my wall of Jeff in his
there's some
garage
great
sitting
old
at the
interviews with
crappy
him in his
desk
old
with a bunch,
office.
yeah, his
In his old
crappy little
office with
desk.
the old
Yeah.
Amazon signs hanging on the
Yeah.
wall and shit. It's
Yeah.
funny.
It was awesome.
Forrest Gump opens in theaters.
Life is like a box of chocolates.
Absolutely. All right. Together like peas and carrots, you and me, buddy. All right. So this was interesting. This was from FactSet, and it goes into guidance
Okay.
that it was provided by companies. These are just some sick numbers. We all saw what happened with a lot of the semis last quarter. Why all
Mhm.
of a sudden last quarter they all blew up with all these unbelievable revenue and earnings numbers? I don't know. But you could just see here, compare. This is they have earnings guidance if you add up all the other sectors combined times three. It's just it's insane. And the problem is setting expectations for clients. It's if
Mhm.
you're not in the top 20 stocks, which are mainly all tech, like you're
Mhm.
not really getting that alpha outperformance. Yeah, the market is broadening out, but not these kind of earnings. I don't know what your
No.
thoughts are there.
No, I agree. And I'll cover something, just an article I just happened to come across on Yahoo Finance about the Mag 7. And it's interesting that it's like the Mag 7 has been wildly underperforming the rest of the market, which has been the exact opposite of what it's been. But I think some of that, the spend that's dragging on the Mag 7 is being dumped into these semi stocks, the memory, the microns of the world, and things like that. Because once again, it's the data center story. That money is being dumped into those because they need that memory. They need those chips to build out the data centers that they want
Yeah.
at this point. So
Yeah.
it's intriguing to me to see too that I think Meta was the first of these. I think some of the other ones of some of these big hyperscalers that are actually talking about selling some of their excess capacity or renting out their excess capacity because they've built so much at this point.
Yeah. And then on the right side, it goes through what industries had the most amount of negative guidance. I mean,
Mm.
the industrials, I know some of them have been doing pretty good. Consumer discretionary has just been flat to negative for
A
over a
mess.
year.
Yeah.
But information technology, only five companies had negative guidance. It's just crazy. And then you just take a look at the rest. And then on the bottom, it's going through over a 5 year period of time. And you can see the negative guidance is going down as far as overall companies are concerned, despite all the other headwinds and everything else going on. So
Yeah.
the next one, I wasn't sure if I was going to put in this chart, but what kind of segues into what you were saying and what's been out there about the I don't like calling it the Mag 7, you know that though. The top seven stocks, that there's been a rotation away. But if you look at it,
Mm.
they've been outperforming. So yeah, money's been shifting. That's really what it comes down to is
Mm.
money's just been shifting. It's not that they're making any more or less money, and then
Mm.
maybe the valuations are coming into a better area.
Yeah.
So this is where we are towards the end of June. But I think it'll be very interesting to see what happens by the end of this year and what happens in the midterms going into 2027. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, totally agree. And like I said, I'll back that up in a minute with the thing that I found on Yahoo Finance. It's another situation where you're just like, yes, they're still making a ton of money. They're spending a ton of money, and I think that's what's causing the top seven to really underperform is the market's just trying to get a read on, okay, how much is enough and are they going to get a return out of it? Now, personally, I think you're seeing that they are getting a return out of it because so much of their businesses they're implementing AI into that I think they're getting that productivity gain, but the market just doesn't want to admit it at this point, but they're still making a ton of money.
They're
They're
printing.
just they're printing money literally with a lot of this.
Yeah. Very quickly, so through June 30th,
Mm.
asset performance through the first 6 months. And I thought it was interesting. I didn't realize emerging markets were leading the pack. I knew small
Yeah,
cap was because that's part of my strategy with clients, but fixed income obviously has been flat. It's not really going anywhere.
the
But
dead.
yeah, I have no desire to invest in emerging markets. It's been a
Mm.
laggard for 14, 15 years now. And
Yeah.
okay, great, they're having a good 18 months, but moving forward, US is always the place where you want to put it, and that's what you're
Mm.
looking at. The average here for the last 15 years is the S&P will still outperform.
Yeah, we've had a the momentum indicator that I use or part of our portfolios. We've had small caps on for probably 4 to 5 months now consistently. And that's something that rotates back and forward. But yeah, that one stayed as a consistent player, the Russell 2000 because it's about time and I think they've been underperforming for so long that the market is spreading out into the small caps a little bit. I'm there with you too on the emerging markets. I just have no interest in
Yep.
those. Honestly, I don't have much interest in investing outside the US anyhow.
I-
I've got some international stocks in the portfolio, but mainly because they do business here in the United States mostly.
Yeah. And then finally, I thought this chart bared repeating. I've seen a few of these different charts because
Mm.
everybody's talking about, oh, AI is going to kill jobs or whatever. But if you take a look at each one of these things for the most
Mm.
part, it
Yep.
did kill jobs in certain sectors, but
Sure.
then created jobs.
Yeah, and
So
it typically creates more jobs on the back end, more and better paying jobs on the back end for people. We're becoming more knowledge workers and less, less manual laborers. That's where I think we're moving.
yeah, and like I said, will AI kill certain jobs?
Yep.
Absolutely. But it's
Yep.
going to create. When the television came out, it wasn't hot. Oh my God, it's going to kill the radio. It reduced radio's position
Sure.
as a way of getting information and whatever and entertainment, but it created jobs for crying out
Mhm.
loud. We could go through
Yeah.
each one. We're not going to do that.
Yeah.
But
But I mean, much is the same of cable companies. Cable companies dominated everything, and then now streaming is dominating. And I'm still not convinced on that piece because it seems like everybody now wants to have their own streaming channel and it costs you more than if you just had cable. But the problem is now they don't even want to release stuff. Even if you have cable, they don't want to release stuff onto that. They want to release it only onto their unique and individual platform. And I don't want to subscribe to all of them.
I hear you. What do you got?
All right. So let me start us off. I'll follow right in with what you were talking about, which was, if I can find the correct screen here. Yeah, here we go. So what you were talking about there with the Mag 7 or top 7 as you put it, this is an interesting thing actually came off a bar chart that included this in here. So this is based on a study by Morgan Stanley. And once again, the headline that caught my eye was Magnificent Seven stocks are trading at the cheapest valuation in more than a decade, which I'm like, okay, I didn't think they were necessarily cheap, but in comparison, their analysis looked at the price to earnings multiple premium for the Mag 7 relative to the other 493 companies in the S&P 500. And that premium has been for the 2020s in 30% range. It's always been about 30% higher than the general market. It's now closer to 10%. So you can see that kind of trend just moving forward, which is funny because you always constantly hear from market and the pundits, oh, these are so expensive. It's intriguing to me, but I personally think it's still a big challenge for the Mag 7 right now. I think it's a huge challenge because they're all hyperscalers. They're all putting money like crazy into AI, which honestly I think is going to improve productivity. It's going to improve profits, but it's just one of those things where the market is just so scared that the next quarter they might report that, oh crap, we're losing money on the AI thing. And it's one of those things I think we're just going to keep climbing a wall of worry with a whole lot of volatility. What's your thoughts?
Look, the top 10 stocks, forget about seven,
Yeah.
are roughly 40% of the S&P 500 movement in the market because it's market cap weighted, which is another reason
Mm,
why I don't use it as a benchmark. So what they're saying is because the average investor doesn't know the market like you and I, and they know headlines rule. So this is all a preamble to the following. Morgan Stanley, all the big investment banks know that if the top 7 to 10 stocks are flat to negative, people may pull their money out. People
mm,
may sell.
yeah.
Even if other sectors and other parts of the market are moving and growing, that they just may feel that people will pull their money if the top 10 stocks aren't moving the market. Now,
Mm,
psychologically, that's probably true.
yeah.
But overall, if the earnings are there, the market will move up, but maybe not at a precipitous level. So to
Yeah.
me, this is all psychology, BS, media crap. That's it.
Just make your point, bud. You're just
I'll
kind of
tell you how I really
sugarcoating
feel in a
everything.
second.
Yeah. Okay, so last thing I had my AI go in and kind of do a little bit of an overview of the FOMC minutes because quite frankly, I didn't feel like reading them. And so here's some things that I think I gleaned from what I saw. So first off, the Fed held rates at 3.5 to 375. It was a unanimous 12-0, but the interesting thing was when you started to hear what they call the dot plot, is they're about 50-50 on do we cut? They pivoted from when do we cut to do we need to hike at this point? And that was a unique thing where the market went, whoop, hold on. The committee split roughly 50-50. So 9 out of the 18 officials were saying that. Now, the interesting thing is on the dot plot, yeah, it was 50-50, but was that 50-50 the voting members or was it the non-voting members at that point? Because we don't get a clear picture on that. Their belief is inflation is the driver. They've jacked up their forecast from 3.6% or up to 3.6% on the up from 2.7%. Yeah, which is their single biggest revision that they've had ever in history. I think as long as energy is up, we're going to be facing that. And I was just looking at oil prices. With all this going on today, we're up to 72 on oil futures. Once again, yeah, it's up. It's not elevated
No,
a lot, as
no.
much as you would think with active stuff going on there. I think one of the things that came out of the meeting, and it's interesting, the of course, new chairman Kevin Warsh in there, he stripped out the future guidance thing. He just basically gave a 130-word statement and said, we're not giving future
Well,
guidance.
they're going to do away with the dot plot too. That's what they were
Yeah,
saying.
the
I don't know
dot
if they
plot and
are.
everything. The interesting thing, though, is that it was 100% of all the voting members that agreed to do that. So it wasn't just Kevin Warsh coming in and saying, I want to do this. And they all agreed, yeah, we don't really need to be doing that. And I think the twist to it is, it was after we didn't do a show last week, but last Friday, the job report came in really light, 57,000 versus the 115,000 expected. Even though the Fed's worried about inflation, their other mandate is they've got to keep full employment. And if that trend continues, I think they sit on their hands, quite frankly. Even though the market's betting on an interest rate raise, I think they sit on their hands for now.
Yeah, we'll have to see. This is definitely going to be a conversation for later in the summer, especially when they do
Yeah,
Jackson Hole. I think they're going to lower rates. I don't think they're going to keep rates where they are.
yeah.
I don't think they're going to increase rates. I think definitely before the midterms, there's going to be one or two rate cuts.
Yeah, but then you start getting into then the Fed is, especially if they do it in September and the elections are in November, you get everybody squealing that, oh, he lowered rates because he's Trump's guy and all that. So I honestly don't think they do anything until the December meeting at this point.
All right, we
So
shall see.
I don't think it goes up or down. I think it just stays where it is for now. And quite honestly, I'd like them to do that. Let things calm down a little bit and then see, because this is not the market is overheated or the economy is overheated. It's because of the inflation rates or because of energy and the war that's inflating this right now.
Yeah, I hear you.
All
Like I
right,
said,
well,
we'll see.
yep, we'll see. We'll be talking about it every week anyhow. All right, folks, thank you for joining us. We're doing a special show this week. So we're going to record that right after this and we'll launch them this week. That second one is our update on where everybody is as far as guests on their market guesses and things like that Ron has. So stay tuned for that special episode and we'll see you guys back here the next time.